What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video we will build a complete login and registration system using HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, PHP and MySQL, perfect for beginners. You will learn how to create secure forms with validation, connect them to a database and set up multi-role authentication for admins and users. By the end of this video, you will have your own working login system ready to use in any PHP project. So let's get started. Alright, so let's start by creating our project folder. I will open the htdoc which is inside C, XAMPP and htdocs. Here I will create new folder and I'm gonna give it a name. Inside this folder, I will open VS Code using terminal. So I'm gonna type code and full stop. It's gonna open the project inside the same directory. Now let me make the VS Code a little bit bigger so everything looks clean and clear. After that we will set up our database. So I'm gonna open PHP MyAdmin inside the Chrome. And inside the PHP MyAdmin, I will go to the SQL tab. Inside here, I will paste the SQL query which I have created already. So I'm gonna copy that and paste that here. The first line, create a new database called auth system, and the second code, create users table with all the required fields. So now let's create that. After creating, it will show on the left sidebar. So let's open the users table, and inside users table we have all the required fields. So that's mean our database is ready to use. So I'm gonna copy database name, and in the next step we will connect our database to our PHP. Let's create a config.php file. Inside that file we will connect our PHP and database. Alright, so let's break this down real quick. First we start with the PHP tags. Let's just tell the server that this file contains PHP code. Next we start a session so we can keep user logged in as they move between pages. Then we got our database settings. The host is the local host, the user is root, and since there is no password, it's just empty. The database name is auth system. These details are what our PHP code will use to connect to MySQL later on. After that, we are connecting to the database using MySQL. This line creates a new connection to MySQL using the setting we defined above. Next, we check if there is any connection error. If the connection fails, this will stop the script and show an error message. So you will instantly know if something's wrong with your database setup. If there is no error, that means our PHP script is now successfully connected to the MySQL database. So now let me show you an example in the browser. When I open config.php in the browser, the blank page means our database connection is working fine. But if I change the database name to something incorrect, it shows unknown database, confirming our error handling works perfectly. Here we have a toHelper function to protect our pages. The first one required login. Check if the user is logged in, and if not, it redirects them straight to the login page. The second function, required role, goes one step further. It makes sure the login user has the correct role like admin or user. If the role doesn't match, it shows 403 forbidden message, blocking access to restricted pages. Alright, now let's move on to create our register.php file. We will start by building the registration form using HTML and Bootstrap for styling. And once that is ready, we will jump into the PHP code to handle user input and form validation. Alright, so I will go ahead and quickly build the registration form here. I will fast forward this part to keep the video shorter. So we are just adding some Bootstrap form fields for name, email, password and confirm password. Once that is done, we will jump straight into the PHP part where we will handle form submission and validation. So during that quick time lapse, we set up our registration form using Bootstrap. We added input fields for the user's name, email, password and confirm password, plus a register button and link the login page. Everything is now in place visually, so let's move on to the PHP code to make this form actually work. Alright, so first we are bringing in our configuration.php file. This gives us access to the database connection and session setup. Next, I am creating an empty errors array. We will use this later to store any validation message. Then I am initializing name and email as empty string, just to make sure the variable exists before we start using them. Now we are checking if the form was submitted using the post method. Inside this condition, we are grabbing the values from the form, the user's name, email, password and confirm password. I am also using trim function for the name and email, just to clean up any extra spaces the user might accidentally type. So basically at this point we are just collecting all the form inputs. We will validate and process that in the next step. Alright, so what is happening here is we are adding some server-side validation to our form. First we are checking if the name field is empty. If it is, we show an error message that says name is required. Then we check the email field. If it is blank, we show email is required. And if it is not empty but the format isn't valid, we show invalid email format. Next we move on to the password. We make sure it is not empty and also that it is at least 6 character long. Then for the confirm password, we check if it is filled in, and if the two passwords don't match, we throw an error message saying password do not match. So basically the whole section is making sure the user fill out all the fields properly before even trying to save their information in the database. Alright, now that we have validated all the inputs, we will move on to check if the email already exists in the database. So first we are making sure there are no validation error by using if empty errors. Inside that we prepare SQL statement to look for any existing user with the same email. We are using a prepared statement here and we are passing select ID from users table where email is equal to question mark limited with 1, which help prevent SQL injection and keep things secure. Then we bind the email values to the query using bind parameter function, execute it and store the result. Basically, this step checks if someone's already registered with that email before we try to create a new account. Alright, so what is happening here? We are checking if that email already exists in our database. If statement number rows is greater than 0, it means someone's already registered with that email. So we add an error message that says email is already registered. Otherwise, if the email does not exist, we move ahead and create a new user. First, we hash the password using PHP password hash function. This makes sure we are not storing plain text password in the database, which is a big security risk. Then we set the user role to the user by default and prepare an SQL insert statement to add the new record into the users table. We bind all the values, name, email, hash password, and role, and then execute the query. If everything runs successfully, we set a success message in the session and redirect the users to the login page. But if something goes wrong like a database issue, we show an error message that says database error, please try again. Finally, we close the statement to free up the resources. Alright, so let me give you a quick demo how the registration.php file works. So I'm gonna fill this form and I'm gonna submit that. Now if we click on registered, it will submit the form and we will be redirected to the login.php file. And now if we check the database, let me show you the table. You can see we have stored the user's record in the database. So that's mean everything is working perfectly. In the next step, we will be working on the login.php file. So we can log in the users to users dashboard or admin dashboard. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a new file called login.php. We will start by copying the registration form from our register.php file. Since the layout is pretty similar, and then we will make a few quick changes to turn it into the login form. We will remove the confirm password field, update the title to say login, and change the button text as well. Once our form looks good, we will move on to the PHP part where we will handle the actual login process and the user authentication. Alright, since our login form is ready, let's move on to the PHP part. We will start by including our config.php file to connect with the database. Most of the code here will be copied from the registration page since the structure is pretty similar. Alright, so here we are checking if the form was submitted using the post method. We grab the email and password from the form and trim any extra spaces. Then we start our server-side validation. If the email field is empty, we show an error that says email is required. If it is not empty but doesn't match a valid email format, we display invalid email format. Finally, we check the password field is empty, and if it is, we show password is required. So what is happening here? First we check for validation errors. If there is no validation error, we move on to checking the database for that user's email. We prepare SQL statement that select the user ID, name, password and role based on the email they entered. After executing the query, we check if we got a result, meaning that email actually exists in our database. If we find one record, we grab the user's data and then use password verify function to check if the entered password matches the hash one stored in the database. If the password is correct, we set a few session variables, the user ID, name, and role, and then redirect them. If the role is admin, we send them to the admin dashboard. Otherwise, they go to the regular user dashboard. But if the password doesn't match, we show an error message saying incorrect password. And if the email isn't found at all, we display no account found with this email. Finally, we close the statement to clean things up. Alright, since our login form and PHP code are ready, let's go ahead and test it in the browser. So I'm gonna open the browser and refresh the page. Now I'm gonna try to log in, which has a user role by default. So if I log in, you can see we are redirecting to user dashboard.php. But if I change the role to admin, let me save this first. And now if I try to log in again, it's gonna redirect us to the admin dashboard.php. As you can see, we are redirecting to the admin page. In the next step, we will work on the error messages so they display properly on the front end. First, I will add the PHP code inside the alert div at the top of the form, and then I will add the error handling code to each of the form fields accordingly. Now if I refresh the page, you will see the red bar has been disappeared. So that's mean our error will only show if we get error from the server side. Next, I will add error handling code to each of the form fields accordingly so we can display error message on each field. Alright, so here what is happening in this part of the form. For the input field, we are using PHP to keep the user's name value even after form submission. This helps prevent the field from resetting if there is a validation error. Next, inside the class attribute, we are checking if there is an error for the name field. If there is, we add the invalid class, which highlight the field in a red using Bootstrap built-in styling. And just below that we have a div with the class invalid feedback where we actually display the error message itself like name is required. So this setup ensures that every time there is a validation error, the input box turn red and the exact error message appear right below it. So now let me give you a quick demo how it's work. So let me refresh the form. And when I submit, you can see we got the error and the input field is also get reds. So now let's do the same for the other fields and the login page as well. So I'm gonna fast forward this section because most of the fields are similar. Alright, let's head over to the browser to see how it looks. So when we submit the form, you can see we have an error message to every field. Now let's fill the form with two different passwords and let's see if the form is submitting or giving us error. So I'm going to use two different passwords. And now if I registered, you can see we got the error, password do not match. So we're going to use the same password. Now if I use the same password for both fields, now let's click on the registered button. So when we click, we are redirecting to the login.php file. That's mean our form is submitting and we are inserting data into the database. In the next step, we will fix the alert message and the form field error message on the login page, so everything displays properly just like it does on the registration page. So far our authentication pages are all set up and working great. Now let's move on and start building the admin dashboard. So I will start by creating a new file called admin-dashboard.php. And to save some time, I'm just gonna copy the basic HTML skeleton from our register.php file. Alright, now we have a blank page, so let's go ahead and start designing our admin dashboard layout. We will add a simple header, some navigation, and a welcome section to get things started. Next, we will add a table section to display all the registered users. This will help the admin easily view user details like name, email, and role right from the dashboard. Now if we check the browser, you can see we have a table, and don't worry about the error, we will fix that in a minute. Alright, the table structure is ready, so now let's move on to the PHP part. We will write the code to fetch all the registered users from the database and display them inside this table. So at the top here we are including our config.php file to connect to the database, and then calling require role admin function to make sure only admin can access this page. Next, we are running SQL query to fetch all the users from database, including their ID, name, email, role, and the date they were created. Finally, we are using fetch all function to store all those records into an array called users, which we will use to display the data inside our table. Alright, so here we are looping through all the users we fetched from the database using a simple for each loop. Inside the table row, we are displaying each user ID, name, email, role, and the date their account was created. For the role column, we are adding a little touch of styling. If the user is an admin, we show a red admin badge, and if not, we are displaying a blue user badge. This makes the table easy to read and help visually separate admins from the regular users at a glance. Now if we open the browser and refresh the page, you can see we have a table with users details. And the error from the navbar is also gone because we connect our config.php to this file. And now if we try to log out this user, you can see the logout button doesn't work. Because we didn't create the logout file, so in the next step we will be working on the logout.php file. So let's create that. Alright, so first we include the config.php file to ensure the session is accessible. Then we clear all session data using session unset function and destroy the session completely with session destroy function. Finally, we redirect the user back to the login page with the header function. This ensures that when a user log out, all their session information is cleared and they can't access protected pages until they log in again. So if we go to the browser and refresh, you can see we are redirecting to the login page. So that's mean our logout file is working perfectly. Now if I log in as a user, let me log in, you can see we are redirecting to user dashboard. So in the next step, we will work on the user dashboard. So here what is happening, we copied the basic HTML structure from the admin dashboard to keep the same layout and styling. But instead of displaying a table of users, we have replaced that part with a simple welcome section. Inside we are using PHP to display the login user's name and role dynamically from the session. Then we have added a short message letting them know this is the user's dashboard. And you can later customize this area with any content or features you want for regular users. Now if we go to the browser and refresh the page, you can see we have a section for users. We also showing username here and here. And we have a message for the user's dashboard. Now let's try to log in as an admin. So I'm gonna log out a user and I'm gonna log in as an admin. Now if I log in as an admin, you can see we are redirecting to the admin dashboard. Alright, before we wrap this project, let's fix one small thing. We will update the dashboard title in the head section so it matches the page we are on. And that's it. Our complete multi-role authentication system is now up and running. We have built registration and login pages with full form validation, create separate dashboard for users and admins, and add proper session handling with logout functionality. If you find this tutorial helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification so you don't miss any upcoming projects. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video.